Hello, and thank you for joining the Joyce Parker Show. I just want to say thank you for being a part of my journey to share my life, my story, my history with you, and I hope that in some way that it is beneficial to you, and that you are closer to Christ in my endeavor to enlighten you um, about my path, my journey. Um, this morning, when I woke up, I was thinking about a cup that God says He has for each of us that would be overflowing. And I think about the times that I've given from my cup to other people, um, some who needed it desperately and were so grateful, and other people who barely acknowledged that I gave, and then those who took more than I gave, wanted more, even more of my cup. And when I say that I gave of my cup, I mean of the resources that God has blessed me with, my time, my energy, my patience, my love, my everything. Um, Giving from my cup, I thought was a godly thing for me to do. Uh, when God says be a blessing, I felt like I have to give from me all the time. Like if I'm not giving, if I'm hoarding or withholding my cup, all of the things that contains my cup, then I'm not being a good Christian. I'm not being religious enough. But I learned that in giving my cup, it was not so much of a blessing to someone else, but more or less taken away from myself. And I had to start to monitor how much of my cup was left for me and how much of my cup that I'd be willing to give away. And I started asking God about pouring into other people's lives with my time and my energy and my the contents of my cup. And when I did that, I started noticing that I was giving way more than what He wanted me to, because a lot of times when I was moved to give, God was like, "No, don't, no." Um, he also kind of let me know that a lot of reasons why I wasn't prompted to give was because sometimes people have um, blessings, and then sometimes they don't necessarily deserve um, blessings from people like me who would easily, readily give the shirt off their back for someone. So um, I just started noticing God's move, and I started moving with Him as far as that. And I noticed that when I pulled back from giving of my cup to certain people, they were bitter. I mean, I started using that as a gauge. Like, okay, so if I say no, what's the reaction? What's the energy? What's the attitude? Um, and if because as a, I'm sorry, as a Christian or as a empath or a given person, I always want to please people. And sometimes people describe people pleasing as the worst thing ever. And I don't feel like I've ever felt bad about pleasing someone, saying yes, giving of myself, even though I'm tired or I had other plans to change them. It's just the way I feel like that I would want to be treated. So it wasn't so much of a burden. But as I've aged, I've noticed that I do give a lot. And maybe my cup would runneth over, as the Bible says, if I save more for myself, if I wasn't pouring it all out to other people. And when I start to ask God about giving, I noticed that he was saying, no, not that person. No, not this time. No. Mm-mm. And saying no made me feel better. And it started to build a rapport within myself of just how much worthy I am of my own blessing, of my own time for me, time to do things for myself. So take time every day, with every yes, with every request, with everything, to look at your cup and make sure that you're not looking at the bottom of your cup and giving your last drop, and that you're giving from a cup that's overflowing. That's how God really wants us to give, not just as given as a Christian or a blessing or obligations, like the devil wants us to feel guilty and obligated to people, when we're here on our paths as individuals, carrying the tools that God has bestowed upon us. So, with that being said, be careful of every drop that's in your cup, and make sure that when you're giving, it's from a cup that's overflowing. Thank you, and God bless you. Bye-bye.